Hello, welcome. It's Christopher Taylor with Sovereign Harmony. Thank you for joining me for the January update. I can't believe we're heading into January 2026. It is the start of a 1 year. I'll talk all about that in my transition video for the year 2025 to 2026 that will come out tomorrow. Today is Tuesday, December 30th, and tomorrow will be the 31st. I will put that video out. But for now, we're going to just concentrate on January itself, 1 month at a time here. And so I got the list of the primary um, things of interest for the month of January in terms of astrology. We've got Chiron moving direct, full moon in Cancer, this very rare triple conjunction between Venus, Mars, and the Sun we'll get to, new moon at 29 degrees Capricorn, and we have the entry of Neptune into Aries, where it did spend some time in the summer of 2025, went back into Pisces where it is now, but when it moves into Aries on the 26th, that's it for the next about 14 years or so before we see that change signs again. So it's in there for the long haul. Anyway, so let's get this started here. We're going to start by looking at the Chiron direct. Happens within about 24 hours of the full moon, so we're just going to wrap that into one concept here. So there's that Chiron direct in Aries, and then here is that full moon in Cancer, Sun opposite the moon. Note that Venus just behind the Sun and Mars just ahead of the Sun. They're all getting close together, getting ready for that conjunction that we'll talk about in a couple minutes here. Also, note the nodes of the moon being brought in with this full moon, as well as the square between Jupiter in Cancer and Chiron in Aries that is basically breaking up at this point. It was with us for much of October, much of December, and now it's about to break up. We'll come back together when Chiron enters Taurus and Jupiter enters Leo at about 0 degrees Leo to 0 degrees Taurus. That'll be in July-ish timeframes to about mid-year. That will happen. But for now, as far as the square between Jupiter and Cancer and Chiron and Aries, that is ending here. So this full moon kind of symbolizes the culmination of that in a way, bringing that in. So this full moon in Cancer, it's going to be very very much in the feels. Okay, Cancer having to do with emotions and feelings and things of that nature. With Jupiter right next to it, it's a little amplified. So it's just sense of amplified sense of emotion. And we just, been through this period with that Jupiter squaring Chiron, which is about growth through vulnerability. So we're kind of, again, at the ending point, the culmination point. This year is coming to an end, and it's a 9 years. So we're culminating endings. Okay. So this 1 year is beginning. We're just a couple days into the new year, beginning with this sense of like, yes, we are leaving that behind, and this is a very new year ahead of us. Not just the numbers changing on the calendar, but energetically, very very new year. And again, I'll talk more about that in my video tomorrow specifically. And what this has a way of doing with this Capricorn energy, that triple conjunction that's getting ready to come into an exact alignment here a few days after this, is we're really landing some of that self-acceptance into our being. Okay, so we've opened up the space for us to exist here, and we're kind of setting that foundation for where we can stand essentially as this new representation of our true whole soul selves, etc. And with this attachment to the nodes, it's really saying it's an easy transition to the future, the North Node in Pisces. We're basically leaving the past behind, which is that past where everything's got to be planned and our worries and things like that. And Pisces is saying, open up to an unknown future. And so this full moon is very much aligned with that, because we're getting into our feelings and we're letting that lead the way. So there could be a really sense of like almost like an aha moment, this sense of this is how I feel. And then therefore, this is what I'm going to lay as the foundation, okay? So just really pay attention in this first week of January to what really feels right, because it's going to be probably based more on what, on that healing that has happened with that self-acceptance, so that we're now choosing ourselves moving forward rather than choosing what we're expected to do or who we think we're expected to be. Okay, so there's a real awareness of who we are and what is our potential with this kind of a full moon. Okay, next on the list we have that triple conjunction in Capricorn. So again, pretty rare. We can actually extend this, January 6th to the 9th. That's more of the tightest window. But even in the days leading up to that, like the January 3rd full moon, for example, in a few days after that, still going to be within orb. Okay, and 16 to 19 degrees Capricorn. Also, we could probably extend that a little bit more, but that really gets us the tightest point. So if you have any planets, especially in the cardinal signs, so Capricorn, Cancer, Aries, and Libra, in this degree area, this is going to be a triple conjunction that you'll probably really experience more significantly than most. Okay, so here's that triple conjunction. So it's just a couple days after that full moon. So the moon has just kind of moved from here to here, hasn't gone too far. But now we got this exact conjunction. So then I just picked a random date in between those days. So now everything's at 17 degrees Capricorn in this particular situation. And what these three planets are going to do, and Mercury is not too far behind. Mercury is actually picking up speed. It left its retrograde a few weeks ago. It is going to catch up to these planets and pass them, and that will happen over the course of January, essentially. So by the time we get to the end of January, Mercury is going to be out ahead of these planets. But for now, it's lagging behind, and these planets are setting the stage. But really, all four of these planets are going to be making the aspects that I have highlighted here. One being in opposition to Jupiter in Cancer. The second one being a square to that Chiron and Aries. So again, reiterating that square between Jupiter and Chiron. And then lastly, once these cross into Aquarius, their first aspect they're going to make is this conjunction to Pluto. So some pretty powerful aspects. So it kind of leads with this sense of, again, following that full moon, this awareness of like what we really feel about things, that in a surge of like just wanting to put ourselves first, wanting to choose ourselves. And we're coming out of that period again of that self-acceptance, that healing from that. And so we're ready for it. Okay. And so the first thing happens here in around, like, say, January 10th to the 13th-ish kind of time frame is that they're opposing Jupiter. So it's bringing up the past in a way, but it's bringing up that past so we can kind of just look at it more objectively, see it from the outside. And then that square to Chiron, that could tempt us into doubting ourselves a little bit. Okay, but again, this whole period of healing with the self-acceptance, we're ready to face those kind of doubts because now we know how to counter them, essentially. Because now we know who we are, now we know what we want, etc. And so it's not going to stop us like it normally would, but there can be that temptation to stop ourselves, okay, not trust ourselves, and to say no, that's a little too much, or whatever it is that we justify not being who we are. Okay, so expect that to come up about mid-month or so. And then when we get to, like, say, the 20th plus or minus, that's when they start crossing into Aquarius. So the later part of the month is going to be all about this conjunction to Pluto. And so, this is really anchoring in a powerful transformed future. So we're really, we're being aware of the past, aware of our doubts, and then committing to ourselves and saying, nope, from here forward, a very, very like definitive, kind of feeling when all four of these planets hit Pluto is we're definitively putting our foot down into the foundation of our future rather than the past. So we're facing our past, facing our doubts, so that we can firmly and powerfully head in the direction of the future. And that's really what that has to do with. Okay. Next on the list is the new moon at 29 degrees Capricorn. Okay, so very edge of Capricorn. Again, there's Mercury. It is caught up now to the sun, essentially, is past Mars, and it's on its way here. Venus has crossed into Aquarius at that point. Okay, and this what this is basically doing is forming an aspect to the outer planets like Neptune, Uranus, and it's pulling in Pluto. Is close enough. Is it out of sign, but it is within the orb that we would consider it a conjunction. So it's really helping to cross and bridge the gap between this old energy and the new energy of 2026, which is all about these outer planets entering their new signs for good. Okay, and so this is just more signification of the end of the old. So January really is helping us transition into this new energy before we jump into it in a lot of ways. And so with it in Capricorn too, it's about, again, further laying down that foundational, that ground, that earth, okay, for what the future is going to be. That's kind of its relationship in that out of sign with Pluto, that conjunction of Pluto, is that it's saying, okay, we're going to lay the ground for the future. Okay, and we're getting a glimpse at these, outer planets just before they enter their new signs. And so, speaking of entering new signs, when we get to the end of the month, we got January 26th. Neptune enters Aries. Like I said before, it was in Aries for a few months in 2025, a little glimpse there, and now it's going to be in Aries. It will not go back to Pisces. So, as we speak right now, these last few weeks are Neptune's last hurrah at the 29th degree of Pisces. A lot of deceptions are coming out. If you're paying attention to the news, when it comes to, like, say, for example, like, fraud schemes and whatnot in Minnesota, just a perfect example of, a Neptune in Pisces coming out. I mean, Saturn is kind of the deception correction planet, and it's right on the heels of Neptune. So a lot of, that's probably the tip of the iceberg as far as what other states are doing. It's probably not just healthcare situations. Where else is money being laundered and used for purposes that it shouldn't be, using taxpayer money. But point being is we're in that final hurrah of Neptune in Pisces, but it enters Aries. It'll be in Aries for about 14 years or so. So whole new energy. Neptune in Aries is all about, like I said, making that space. We've been making the space, I should say, for our whole selves to be in this experience in life. And Neptune in Aries is basically saying, all right, like, we want more of us in this life. Okay. And it's also about, like, putting ourselves first as the most spiritual approach. Okay. Because if we consider ourselves as all children of God, or however we want to look at it, we are all an expression of God in some ways. And so this has the energy of realizing that, of saying, like, I am of God, and therefore what, my mission being fulfilled, or all of me being here, is in the best interest of the all, just like everyone else. Okay. And so it's about allowing more of the authentic person to be in this life. Okay. And I'll talk more about this in my video tomorrow, talking about the transition, again, from 2025 to 2026. It's not just a transition from a 9-year to a 1 year, which is, happens every 9 years. We start a new 9-year cycle. But it's also entering the year of the fire horse. That won't be until the solar eclipse on February 17th. That'll initiate the year of the fire horse, and that suggests speed. So not only starting something new, but it's starting with quickness once we get there. And then just 3 days after that, that's when Saturn is actually going to catch up to Neptune at 0 degrees Aries, and on February 20th. Can't believe. So my next monthly video will be talking all about that. And I got a whole video here you can find on my YouTube channel, which is going over, essentially, the Saturn-Neptune conjunction at 0 degrees Aries and the significance of that. I will reiterate that in my video tomorrow, but talking about that transition. But if you want the detailed information, that's a good place to go. You can find that pretty easily on my channel. But that's the signification of, a whole new stage of societal evolution. The last time we had a conjunction between Saturn and Neptune, it was in Capricorn, and that was in 1989. That's when the Berlin Wall fell. Okay, big significant point. Again, we'll reiterate that tomorrow. So that wraps it up. So we got the Chiron moving direct, 23 degrees Aries. Next day, full moon in Cancer. We've got that triple conjunction between Venus, Mars, and the Sun. So it's basically starting a new cycle, a new Venus-Mars cycle, Venus-Sun cycle, and Mars-Sun cycle. Okay, so 3 brand new cycles, all anchoring in, landing in, as we speak there. New moon in Capricorn also helps with forming that foundation. Okay, so we've come to our self-acceptance, with Chiron going direct. That really signifies that it's over. It's, done with that relationship with Jupiter for now. And so we've come to self-acceptance. We're making space for ourselves to anchor in a new foundation, land that. And with Neptune entering Aries, it's evolution time, okay? Societal evolution. So that's kind of, to wrap that up, self-acceptance, landing, and evolution. Those are the themes of the month of January. So thank you for joining me. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe, like, share. Also, you can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube. All Christopher Taylor, Sovereign Harmony, or Sovereign Harmony Astrology. You can find them either way. So enjoy your new year, enjoy your January. And again, do tune in. I'll have this video specifically dealing with the transition from 2025 to 2026 coming out tomorrow on the 31st. So until next time, we will see you later. Take care.